Milestone is known for making video games, and in the genre we play, the ones we care about would be MXGP and Supercross. They are responsible for both the official MXGP game and the official Supercross game. This would be MXGP 2021, the newest and the last MXGP game Milestone would end up making. We know they dropped the MXGP license and won't be making that game anymore. We know it's been picked up by a new studio, and we should be getting a new game sometime this year, which is pretty exciting. And then they also make the Supercross series. This would be Supercross 6 and the newest Supercross game. There is talk pretty much all but confirmed by Milestone themselves, but they are probably going to be coming back with a Supercross 7. We don't know what that'll be like, but we do know they will probably continue this series. So they've made a bunch of games, 7 MXGP, 6 Supercross, and I thought this was a good time to kind of go over the fall of the MXGP series and the Supercross series, or just Milestone in general. Now, what I want to talk about first would be the MXGP series, because this is the one we know for sure they've given up on, and the first one that they started with. So you should see a graphic on screen. This is, in my opinion, this is just an opinion. It is no how, no way a fact. I do know some people feel this way, but this is just how I feel. So they started out with MXGP. It was a great game, a great entry into the series, and way better than their previous game, which would have been Mud. MXGP 2 was also very good, continuing the upward trend, with MXGP 3, the game you see in the background, being the best, the peak of the series in my opinion. Then came MXGP Pro. MXGP Pro was kind of a game I went back and forth on. Sometimes I felt like it was good and then bad, and now, knowing what we got, it was actually a pretty good game, but a step backwards from MXGP 3. And then we go to this game you see in the background, MXGP 2019. That is where I really felt like the big fall for the MXGP series happened. I know it had better graphics, I know it had the track editor and whatnot. It had a really great compound, but it was my least favorite MXGP game in the series. I know it isn't that way for everybody, but again, it is just my opinion. So my opinion is MXGP 2019 was the main fall of the series, and then MXGP 2020 and MXGP 2021 followed the same trend of not being that great. Now with MXGP 2020, I did feel like the gameplay was okay, because we were coming right off of Supercross, so the gameplay felt similar to that. A bit changed for outdoors, but the gameplay was okay, but nowhere near as good as the previous MXGP, or maybe even MXGP 1 or 2. It wasn't as good. So overall, still a step backwards, and it released with a bunch of missing content. I know it wasn't entirely Milestone's fault because of the year it came out, but it didn't have first person. I don't believe it had the track editor right away. It was missing 1 or 2 tracks, so the game just wasn't great. And then MXGP 2021, which I do feel like I didn't enjoy this game as much. I feel like it wasn't as good as MXGP 2020. Some people feel different, but this is just how I felt. It was a bit, it kind of had a weird, almost too heavy, too slow kind of feeling. You'll be like, well, it's a dirt bike, it's got to have weight. Yeah, for sure. But it still felt weird and slow and awkward in my opinion. It did have some good things about it with the inside ruts, but the track editor was the same. And overall, I just feel like they, as in Milestone, were treading in the wrong direction. They were getting a bit lazy, and it felt like from 2019 on, the games got very copy-paste, and minimal effort felt like was being put forth into the series. But then we switch over to Supercross, and oddly enough, it is very, very similar to the MXGP series in how it feels like the series had the same arc, if you will. Now, we know we probably are getting a new Supercross game, and we don't know how that will play, but based off of these games, this is how, in my opinion, it kind of pans out. So, again, you should see a graphic on screen, and it's very, very similar to the MXGP series. Supercross 1 was amazing. It was the second best game in the series, in my opinion. A bit of a step back with Supercross 2, still a very good game, but maybe not quite as good. And then Supercross 3, which is what you see in the background, was, in my opinion, the best game. It did have its problems, its faults. It had an endo glitch, which basically was really weird, and you could get a speed boost if you did it. But overall, Milestone completely redid the game from the ground up. It still had similar mechanics, but overall, very, very fun, and in my opinion, the best game. Then the big fall, the really, really big fall, would have been Supercross 4, which is what you see, the big drop. That is a little bit different than it was for MXGP, because Pro, I don't feel like it may have been the start of the fall, but it wasn't a huge drop, and not as good as MXGP 3, but still, knowing what we got after it, it was an okay game. So in this game, or in this series, Supercross 4 was the clear, obvious fall for the Supercross series. You should see some gameplay in the background. It wasn't all Milestone's fault. This was the year we had a bunch of the races from Salt Lake City, so the tracks were kind of meh, not that great, but overall, the gameplay, the physics, the track editor, everything was worse than it was in Supercross 1, 2, or for sure 3. So it's disappointing, and it's weird. It's like Milestone enters into a series and comes out swinging and does a pretty good job. Does a pretty good job for the first 3 titles, but then kind of falls off and gets a bit lazy and just copy and paste and puts minimal effort into the game. Supercross 5, which is what you see here, was a little bit better. Career a bit better, track editor the same or worse, graphics, gameplay, tracks a bit better, but same problem. Not Milestone's fault, but we had the residency races, so 3 tracks from each venue. They all kind of felt the same, and again, that isn't Milestone's fault, but the game and the way they made it and put minimal effort forth to make it better, that is Milestone's fault. So Supercross 5, we keep falling. We keep seeing the fall from the Supercross series. And then Supercross 6, I did feel like the small adjustments to this game I did enjoy. The inside berms they added. Just the core gameplay I felt like was okay, but I know a bunch of people didn't enjoy it. It used the exact same futures races for the career from the year before. The track editor was just crappy, and the compound was kind of cool, so that was another plus to the game. But I know a majority of people not happy, and it still is very obvious that Milestone was just putting minimal effort forth to release a game for their yearly release, for their contract deal they had with Supercross. So, yeah, I mean, it's just really weird. So, when Milestone does something, if they ever come back to an official series or whatever, we could probably expect, or hope to expect, based off of history, the games will probably be pretty good for the first 3, but then really, really take a drop. I really want Milestone to stop doing that. I feel like some of the games they made have been amazing. Really, really, really good. I've really enjoyed them, but a bunch of them just get repetitive with no changes and all that bad stuff, I guess. So I wanted to show you here the graphic of comparing them because, I mean, you already saw them, but it's just they're very, very similar. Very similar in how, you know, how Milestone approaches these officially licensed games that they do. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Where would you consider the fall? I mean, I think by most people's standards, Supercross 3, MXGP 3 were both great games, and then kind of fell off after that. So I'd be really curious to see how you guys feel and where you think the fall for both the Supercross series and MXGP series happened. just because I know not everybody feels the same, and again, this is just an opinion. I know some people can get so triggered by opinions on the internet, but it's just my opinion. It doesn't make it a fact. It is just, how I feel about it and what I think, and I thought it was kind of interesting in how both the series are very similar, and I thought it was a good time to do it because we know Milestone won't be doing MXGP, and we're pretty sure, like I said, all but confirmed officially by Milestone themselves, we're probably getting a new Supercross game. So yeah, just thought it was kind of cool, kind of a interesting idea for a video. But you guys and girls are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the support on the channel lately. Really does mean a lot. And until the next video, take it easy.